Hi everyone, it's Terrence again, and we're back with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about first-time home buying. That's right, first-time home buying. One of the largest purchases that you will ever make in your life is the purchase of your own home. And so on today's broadcast, on today's um, video, we want to talk about what are the steps in buying your first home. We know that buying the first family home is a major purchase and very excitement for everybody. So we want to talk about that today and give you the insights and give you and answer some questions that you may have in terms of buying your first home. So, when should you buy a home? Well, you need to make sure that your finances are steady. You need to make sure that you have some money saved. You need to make sure that the market is ready for you. You need to make sure that your debts are low and that you don't have a lot of bills that's coming out at that time because these are things that will usually cause people to be disqualified for a loan. You should start trying to buy your property 3 to 4 months before you're ready to move. 3 to 4 months before you're ready to move. So you want to start between that time. If you know you're ready to move in about 4 months, 5 months, start now. Start the process now. And the reason that we say 3, 4 months, maybe even 5 months, is because you don't know what the lender might find in terms of your finances or in terms of your credit that may need some work. And so you want to give yourself time to fix whatever things that might be of concern to the lender so that you can get your approval. All right, so number one, the first thing we want you to do is to meet with a realtor. Find you a real estate agent. You can go by references that you may get from someone else or someone that you may know. Ask around someone who you know bought a home and see if you can get some information about them for a realtor. Get you a competent realtor, a realtor that's going to be responsive to you. Once you've got your real estate agent, find somebody that you know that knows the local area, that knows the market that you're trying to buy in. That's going to be very helpful to you. It's a terrible thing to get a realtor that's not familiar with the neighborhood, not familiar with the market. That's not going to be advantageous to you. The first thing you want to do is get you a competent realtor. The second thing you want to do, maybe I should have made this the first thing you should do, is get organized. Get your financial documents organized. Now that you know you're going to buy a loan, this is one of the most serious moments in your life, and you need to get organized. The lender is going to be looking for paycheck stubs for the last 30 days, sometimes 60 days. The lender is also going to want bank statements for the last 30 to 60 days. Now, they usually will ask you for your checking account, bank statements. Sometimes they'll ask you for your savings account, bank statements for the last 30 to 60 days. And if you have a 401k or a retirement account, IRA, oftentimes banks will also ask you for a statement or the last statement that you received on that account. If it comes out quarterly, they want the last statement for that. And what they're trying to find out is, do you have the funds to purchase the property? Do you have the funds available to close? And what those sources are for that down payment. So they usually want you to have those documents. So you want to make sure that you also have your tax returns available. They usually want the last 2 years' tax returns so that they can evaluate how much money you have earned in the last 2 years. So you want to have 2 years' tax returns. You want to also have your W-2 forms. They want your job W-2 forms. And so get those things together and begin to organize them because these are the things that they're going to ask you for immediately to determine if they're ready to even work with you or not. So get organized. Number three, see if you qualify for any down payment assistance programs. There are people who, based on your individual financial situation, you may qualify for a first time home buyer's grant. Depending on your state, the grant can be $3,000, and in certain instances, your state can loan you up to, or grant you rather, up to $17,000. That's right, up to $17,000 in down payment assistance that you don't have to pay back. it is a grant for you. So you want to check that out and see what grants are available for you based on your particular credit situation, income situation. There are certain grants that are even available for you depending on the neighborhood you move in. Certain TIF funds, cities grant to people who will purchase in certain areas. I know here in Chicago, where we live, if you purchase in certain neighborhoods that they are trying to bring up and bring back and trying to solidify with homeowners, the city of Chicago will give you a special grant if you move in. They don't want the neighborhood filled with absentee landlords. They want some people to actually anchor the neighborhood, and that's why they give incentives and they give grants to police officers, school teachers. They want people that's going to live there 10 years, 20 years and anchor the neighborhood. So you want to check out your local city, your county, and your state. Check out your city, your county, and your state to find out what grants may be available. Now, your bank may also have access to some of those grants. So you want to check out your credit union, your bank, whoever you're going to get your financing from, your loan company, mortgage company, to determine if they also may have access to the grants. Now, in certain instances, the bank that you're working with may want to apply for those grants for you. They may already have tapped into those grants. They have first time home buyer grants available for you. So you want to check that out because that's going to help you at the end if they've already factored in that they have applied for the grant. You can't wait to the last minute to apply for the grant. Some of the grants are first come, first served. So the moment you know that you're ready to buy a home, get with a lender and see if that lender already has access to first time home buyer grants that the bank already has received and is available to people who qualify. So you want to know that you qualify. It is a qualifying process to getting those grants. Some grants require you to have a 600 credit score to get the grants. Other grants require you to have a 640 credit score in order to get the grant. So you do want to find out, are you going to qualify for one, or if you're going to need to come to the table with the money yourself. Number three, you're going to apply for a mortgage. Apply for a mortgage. When you begin to apply to lending institutions, try to apply to three different places. You want to really shop around to see if you can get the best interest rate, okay, and the best terms for your loan. So don't just go to one place and say, well, this is the bank that I work with, this is the bank that I bank at, I'm going to apply there. No, you want to also apply in maybe a credit union or maybe even an online bank to see what the floating interest rates are right now to make sure that with your particular credit situation that you are getting the best possible interest rate. You don't want to be in a situation where the interest rates for your particular credit situation are in the twos, but you are getting a three. Your interest rate that's being marketed to you by the lender is 3.5. You know, if the people with your credit are getting loans that are in the 2.5, 2.6, 2.2, then you want to make sure that you also are getting that kind of rate. I know it happened to me when I was trying to buy one of my properties. The bank um, was giving me a higher rate, and I switched and I went to a different lender that was offering more in their program. They had down payment assistance programs and things of that nature. So you want to make sure that you're getting the best rate and not just the one that that particular lender that you're working with is offering to you. Next, I want to talk about that because if you talk to your real estate agent works with lenders all the time. So you can talk to your real estate agent. That's what I did. The house that I'm living in now, I didn't go to a bank myself. I met my lender, my real estate agent first. And when I was talking to my real estate agent is actually the one who put me in contact with a lender that he worked with on a regular basis. And I tell you, out of the 5 or 6 properties that I have purchased in my lifetime, this house that I'm living in now was the easiest to purchase as far as working with a lender was concerned. It was a smooth process. It was a fast process. And I tell you, I've had some horror stories that I can tell you about purchasing properties when you'd have lenders who are not responsive, when you have realtors that are not responsive. So I can tell you some horror stories. That's another video for another day. But this process went so smooth. I got my pre-approval letter in a matter of 2 hours after I applied. I applied driving down the street in my car. I talked to the lender on the phone, got approved. By the time I got home from running errands, there was a pre-approval letter in my email. I printed it out, gave it to my realtor. We went shopping for homes, the very next day or two. So having a realtor who works with lenders all the time, they have relationships with people and they are able to kind of navigate you through the maze of lenders and really put you in touch with a great lender that will be more conducive for your particular credit situation and financing situation. All right. So we recommend you do that. Oftentimes, I would even say this to you. Sometimes credit unions will also have lower interest rates than your regular community bank. So you might want to also check with a local credit union if your job has one or if you have one in your city close by you. Check with them also. They usually will give you lower rates than you will get from your regular bank. All right, the next thing we want to talk about is what kind of loans are available. So there are several kind of loans available. There's the conventional loan, there's an FHA loan, there is a USDA loan, and then there is a VA loan, which is called the Veterans Loan. For most people who are first-time home buyers, you're usually going to try the first two. Either you're going to get the FHA loan or you're usually going to end up getting the conventional loan. Now, if you've saved up and you've been saving for a long time and you get a conventional loan, that's good because the conventional loan will require you to pay 20% down payment. And that 20% down payment will stop you from paying PMI insurance, private mortgage insurance. That private mortgage insurance is what the lender uses to as a safeguard for them because you're putting so much little money down. So when you put 20% down, the lender doesn't feel that you are as much of a risk. You've saved up quite a bit of money to be able to put down. So if you're able to put 20% down, you save a couple of $100 on your monthly payment because you put down 20%. So if you have 20% down payment to put down on your home, it's good for you to be able to get a conventional loan and you don't need all that assistance. However, if you are a part of our population that need a little bit more help and a little bit more assistance, many Americans choose the FHA loan. Now, the FHA loan, which is what I get a lot of people who are first time home buyers, when I think I was in my 20s, I think I was 26 when I bought my first home. The FHA loan will require you to put down as little as 3.5%. 3.5%. And so if you are not a person that has a high paying job where you are able to save up a whole lot of money, a lot of people are able to gain home ownership by choosing FHA loans. The FHA loan is also for those who have some credit challenges because the FHA loan program will allow you to obtain a loan for as little as 580 credit score. Mhm. A 580 credit score. And sometimes even the debt to income ratio that banks use for FHA loans, sometimes a little bit more lenient. Some will go 35, some will go 40, some will go 43% debt to income ratio, how much you owe on the front end and the back end. And so that's very important if you're going to be looking for a loan because those things can stop you from getting a loan. So most people try to go the FHA route because you don't have to have a lot of money, 3.5% down, and you get assistance sometimes when you have FHA loan you can get down payment assistance. So if you only have to put down 3.5% of the purchase price and you get down payment assistance also from the lender or from a community program, housing program that you get involved with, that means you bring less money to the table. And so you can end up purchasing a house that you can afford and don't have to come out of your pocket with a lot of money. Now I want to talk to you about After you got that loan term that you want to go into, the kind of loan, FHA, conventional, USDA, which is also 100%. The USDA loans are usually for the farm areas or the rural areas, and it's also 100% financing. Once you have gone through that process, then you can start shopping for a loan. When you start shopping for a loan, you want to try to find out if you can afford 100,000, 150,000, 175,000, 200,000, 250, 275, 300,000. When you first get that first home, you want to see how much you can afford, and then you want to see, based upon what you can afford, what's the best neighborhood for what I can afford. What is the best neighborhood? So if you have children, that answer will change because you may be able to afford over here, but over here has better schools. Over here has parks where you can walk the dog and the children can play. So depending on whether you're single or whether you're a couple or whether you're a couple with children will also determine what kind of property you choose to buy and in what neighborhood. So once you do get the amount that you are approved for from the lender, find the best neighborhood. Is it better for you to live in the inner city where the taxes are lower? Or is it better that you move to the suburbs where you don't have as large a population, but the taxes are higher, usually in the suburbs? And so you need to determine based upon what we have been approved for, where can we get the most or the best neighborhood for the amount that we have been approved for. After you begin to go looking for that, then what will determine your buying process is if what kind of market are you buying in. So this is 2022 currently. And so we're just coming out of a pandemic, still going around, but we're coming out of a pandemic. So for us in the United States, it's really been a seller's market. It has been to the advantage of sellers. Sellers have been making a mint on their homes during the pandemic. So if you've been a person who have been trying to sell your house, you're getting top dollar. Most people in Chicagoland area, they're getting thousands of dollars more for their homes than the homes were listed at. So if you have a home listed for 200,000, oftentimes people are getting 205, 207, 209, 210, 215. We've seen people go in and there were long lines outside on the home showing day. Families were standing in long lines along the sidewalk waiting to get in to tour the homes. And oftentimes, when it's a seller's market, you have a plethora of people who are waiting to buy your home. They've seen it online, they've come now to tour it in person with their realtor, and they're oftentimes, when it's a seller's market, you've got 10, 15, 20, 25. It's not unheard of to have 75 offers on one house, particularly if the house is completely remodeled or a brand new home, nobody has anything to do to it, it's in move-in condition. Those houses sell far above what the listing price is. And oftentimes when it's a seller's market, it's a bidding war. So please understand, when it's a seller's market, you will end up probably paying more for the home than the listing price. So if the home is listed for $200,000 and there's 25 families bidding on that house with you, you're doing just that. You're bidding. Sometimes the bidding will be in $100 increments. You bid $100 more. Sometimes it's $500 more. Sometimes when the bidding gets really high, the bidding will be $1,000 each time. This person will bid 1,000 more than you. Another person will bid 1,500 more than you. Another person will bid 2,000, 3,000, sometimes $5,000 more than you in order to get that house. So if you do buy a house in a seller's market, please know that you're probably going to need to have some savings up because you'll end up paying more for the house than it's listed for in order to get that house, because usually in a seller's market, there's a shortage of inventory in the market, which means you don't have as many houses available in the market as you have buyers in the market. So that means, to give you an example, you've got 1,000 buyers looking to purchase a home in that community, but you've only got 10 homes for sale. So if you've got 1,000 people looking for homes in that neighborhood, in that city, in that community, and you've only got 10 homes for sale, it's a buyer's market. I'm sorry, it's a seller's market. It's the seller's got 10, 20, 50, 75 offers on the house. And even though they may list it at 100,000 or listed at 150 or 200,000, they've got some other people who are bidding far more to get that house. So when you buy a house in a seller's market, be prepared to come out of your purse with a little bit more money, out of your pocket with a little bit more money, because you're going to end up being in a bidding war with other families to get their property, particularly if it's a what they consider a hot property. In the neighborhood that you're moving into, there's not a lot of homes like that. The home is unique, or like my house that I moved in. When I moved in my house was listed as a hot property. It was listed as a hot property. So in Chicago, a hot property is a property that's had a lot of work done to it. It's been completely remodeled, new sidewalks, new windows, just complete top to bottom gut and rehab of the property. So that's what this house that I'm living in right now, that's what it was. And so at my age, I'm over 50. So I wanted a house that was already done. Everything had already been done to it. All I had to do was move in. I did not want to buy a house over 50 years old and have to be going to work during the day and coming home, remodeling it and doing floors and ceilings and lighting and all of that. I wanted a house that had everything already done, outside, inside, tuck pointing, roof, lighting. I wanted everything done. And that's what was done to this house that I'm in today. So because of that, the other houses that were in the market that were for sale, but they were not considered hot properties, meaning that they didn't have brand new patios, they didn't have brand new sidewalks, they didn't have tuck pointing, they didn't have new roofs, all new electrical, all new plumbing, beautiful hardwood floors like this house had when I moved in. So when I came to tour this house, there were 9 other families walking around this house when I bought it, putting bids in, and they were 2 income families, and I'm a 1 income family. So it was a very intense bidding war for me to get this house. But at the end, out of the 9 bids for the house, I won the bid. And yes, I did in a seller's market during the pandemic have to pay more for the house than it was appraised for. I think I may have paid 5,000 more than the listing price, I think, in order to win the bid. But those are the type of the things you have to be prepared for when it is a seller's market. Now, when it's a buyer's market, that means that there's enough inventory around, and people are not getting a whole lot of offers on their property. So when people are not getting a whole lot of offers, they are more inclined to be more willing to negotiate with you and lower the price, because it is a buyer's market. You can choose between this property and that property because it's a lot of properties in the market at that time. So in order to get people to come to your place or to the seller's place, they'll start lowering the price. They'll start offering to do this and that to the property in order to get someone to come in and take it off of their hands for them so that they can move on to the next stage of their life. And then there's a balanced market. Now, when there's a balanced market, that means there's enough supply and there's enough buyers in the market. Now, during those times, you won't see a lot of change when it comes to negotiations, because there's enough buyers in the market. So if you don't buy the house, somebody else will. Houses are selling pretty normal. So that's what's called a buyer's. I'm sorry, that's called a balanced marketplace. And so you can expect those things in a seller's market, a buyer's market, and a balanced market when the prices and negotiations are a little bit different, and the approach, how your realtor approaches each one of these different scenarios, is a different strategy. How are you going to get the house when it's a buyer's market? How are you going to get the house when it's a seller's market? How are you going to get the house when it's a balanced market. Your realtor that you're working with is trained in how to negotiate in each one of those marketplaces to get you into that property. All right. So now, after you've shopped around for the house, then you're going to make an offer. You're going to have your realtor make you a contract, and you're going to sign that contract at a certain price, and you're going to submit it. So your realtor is going to submit that to the seller, and the seller is going to look over the terms that you're asking for. And depending on the market conditions that you are in, a balanced market, a buyer's market, or a seller's market, depending on the market you're in, will make the seller determine how they want to deal with the contract. If you have a lot of contingencies that you want them to work on, you want them to replace the lighting, you want them to do new kitchen sinks, you want them to put new countertops in, you want them to refinish the floors, you want new doors on the front and the back, or you want them to replace the washer and dryer. If it's a seller's market, they don't have to do that. They may not be so inclined to negotiate with you because 15 other buyers will take the house as is and they don't have to do anything to it. So if you're in that situation, your realtor will know there's a different strategy that you have when you have a bunch of contingencies. I want them to fix this and fix this and fix this, repair this, replace that. When it is a seller's market, I'm sorry, a buyer's market, then you have more negotiation. The seller is more willing to negotiate with you because they know you can easily walk away from the deal, and they may not get another offer for weeks and weeks or months, and the property may just languish on the market for a longer period of time. So if they got an interested party during a seller's market, during a buyer's market, they're more inclined. Now that they got somebody that has interest in the property, they're more inclined to negotiate with you so that they can get this property sold. So the next thing, after you make an offer, you sign the contract, you submitted it to the seller, they have an option to accept it. They have an option to counter it and say, well, how about this price? How about these negotiations? So they can accept the offer, they can counter your offer, or they can totally just ignore the offer. They don't they don't even have to respond. They can just move on to something else that they think is more acceptable to them. Your agent, when they're not calling you, they're not talking to you, your agent is working behind the scenes with the other agent, the seller's agent, to get this property accepted by you and get it done. Now, if your property is accepted, you now have a period of maybe 10 to 14 days to do what is called due diligence. Due diligence is the time when you have to go over, inspect the property, have your inspections done, have your appraisal done, see if there's anything that needs to be done that you want to have added to the contract during that time. That's called due diligence. So you can get the contract during this time. You can get out of it if you say, well, I found something that was wrong with the property. I remember before I bought this house, a year before I bought this house, I went to buy a house in another part of Illinois in the suburbs. And when I went to the house and I had my inspection done, the inspector came out and told me he found termites in the property and in the yard. He pointed to a tree that was in the backyard, large backyard property, and he pointed out that, do you see this tree is dead? I said, yeah, I noticed that. He said, well, the tree is dead because of termites. So all the termites had eaten up the tree in the backyard, all the grass, they were in the ground, eating up the grass. And he showed me in the basement of the house, in the lower level of the house, how they had come into the house and they were boring through the wood that was underneath in the basement part of the house. And it was an infestation. So now part of the negotiation was to either negotiate with the seller to have remediation done and have someone come in to do the termite treatment for the house, or to totally walk away from the house. So this, I told the seller about it, but the real estate agent did. The seller agreed to have a termite company come out and do the inspection and determine what needed to be done to remediate that problem. But the bank wasn't okay with it. So we were not able to move forward with that deal. So you want to make sure during that due diligence time that you have a chance to get out of the contract, get out of the deal during that time, depending on how your agent worded your contract. So if it's a seller's market, you may have a problem with a long time due diligence. If it's a seller's market, they may not want you to have it 5 days, 3 to 5 days. Get over there, see what you want, see what needs to be done. Let me know quickly because I got other people. It's a hot property. A lot of people want it. But now, if it's a buyer's market, you may have a longer due diligence time to look at the property, have other people come by, take a look at it, and see if it needs anything mechanically or brick or siding or whatever roof needs to be done. You may have more time to do that, you can either walk away from the deal or you can make an agreement with the seller to have some things done and negotiate those repairs. Next, after you've had that done, is the time for the appraisal. So you want to get an appraisal. Now, in certain banks work differently. Um, when I bought this house, the bank did the appraisal independently themselves. However, with previous properties that I've owned, apartment buildings and a house that I've owned before, I had to do my own appraisal, meaning that I had to find my own appraisal company, hire an appraisal company, have them come out to the house. I had to pay the inspector. I had to pay the appraisal company out of myself. And this particular house, when I did it with this bank, this they did it themselves. I did the inspection. I had to pay for the inspection myself. But for this house, the bank had their own independent appraisal to come out and go over the house completely and make sure that the house was worth what the asking price and the bidding price. Because remember now, I had to bid on this house with 9 other people in order to get this house. So they wanted to come out and make sure that the house was worth what I was going to pay for it. Now, the bank wants to make sure, because of that appraisal, that if you can't pay for the house and it ends up being foreclosed on, that they can get their investment back if they have to foreclose on that house. So that's why they want to make sure that the property is worth it. When you go into the appraisal process, you have entered into something called underwriting. This is the most serious part of purchasing your house because now that you moved out of the loan department, the initial department of the loan process where they gather all your document package is now turned over to a new team called the underwriting department. Now, the underwriting department, these are the people who are going to dig deep into your finances. They're going to dig deep into your credit report. And if it's been 30 days since the process started, they may even request a second copy of your credit report. The underwriting department are going to go very deep over your bank statements. They're going to look at what money's coming in, what money's coming out. They're going to compare your bank statement with your credit report to see that these accounts that are on there are being paid and where this money is coming from. They're going to look at it and see, where did your down payment come from? Where is it coming from? Which bank statement is it listed on? They're going to be very intricate when they're going over all of your finances. When I bought this house, they even called my job. I had never had that happen before, and I purchased 5 properties before this one. They actually, during the pandemic, they called my job. So I want you to know that during this time, they want to call your job to make sure you're still working there, and that because I bought this house in the beginning of the pandemic, they want to see if you're going to be laid off. Do they see any shutdowns happening due to the pandemic? They want to know that. So you want to make sure that you don't switch jobs or anything during that time frame because they will call your job. They are looking for stability. I really should have labeled this video buying a home during the pandemic, buying your first home during the pandemic, because the criteria was much different during the lending process during the pandemic than it was, because so many millions of Americans were losing their job and going into foreclosure. Many lenders and their board of directors changed the lending requirements during the pandemic in order to prevent another housing crisis like it was back in 2008. So they wanted to offset that really quickly by raising the credit standards and raising many of the other requirements that they had to ensure that they really had solid, strong candidates that were getting these loans. So, to wrap things up, next, after you've gone into the underwriting department, they are going to go over all of your documents in this. Sometimes it's a 3-person or 4-person underwriting team. There's a lot of things going on that you don't know about. There are things going on with surveys. They're getting titles changed over. They're ordering all kind of documents, working with your lawyer and your lawyer's team. They're getting all kind of things from the city, from the state, taxes, all kind of things. They're sending information to the IRS. The IRS is sending information back to them. A whole lot of things that you don't know about is going on during the underwriting process that is necessary for the loan to be approved. If everything pans out after they've gone deeply over your finances and pulled your credit again, if all of this comes out and it's all been approved, you now move to what is called final approval and you get your clear to close. Everybody's notified that you have the clear to close, and that is when you go to your last step, and that is they set up the closing of the property. This is where you have to bring the down payment and closing costs to the closing area. Now, it could be an attorney's office, it could be at a closing office. They will let you know where you need to bring it, and you'll have to bring certified funds in order to have the money that you need for your down payment. And they will tell you, usually a few days before closing, how much money you will have to bring in certified funds in order to be able to close on the property. When you get to the closing, they will have everything usually go very smoothly, because during the underwriting process, any issues that arose, they dealt with it during that underwriting process. So you shouldn't have any hiccups if you've made it to the closing table. But I did. There were taxes that I owed from years ago with my state here in Illinois, and it was like $5,000. So while we're signing papers at the end of closing, I had one paper left to sign at closing. The closing agent comes in and speaks to my attorney and tells my attorney, we can't close on the loan because Mr. Rogers owes $5,700 to the state. And they came in and said, this should have been taken care of. My original loan officer should have found this out during the early part of the process, and that should have been knocked out. But it was no problem. We did what was called a dry close, meaning nobody got paid. The real estate agent, nobody got paid. My attorney, nobody got paid. It will be paid later on. So thankful I saved money to buy the house. So I was easily able to go down to the state of Illinois the next morning, pay the $5,700, still had my down payment money ready. So I was saving for a house. So I had the money that I needed for my down payment, my closing costs, and I still had enough money left over to pay the $5,700 to the state that I owed them. And then I was able to go back to the title company. They had my documents already ready for me, already signed, and gave me the number to the lockbox to come to the house and get the keys, and the rest was history. So I hope that these 30 minutes have given you the steps that you need to really enjoy one of the best and most rewarding times of your life, when you're finally able to become a homeowner. So I want to congratulate you now. If you watch this video, whatever step in the process you're in, I want to congratulate you now on your next step of being a homeowner. Have a great day, everybody.